We're checking in with Branch County's representative in the state senate. That's Jonathan Lindsey, a former 4-H'er himself. So you got a chance to be down to the fair a little bit this last week, individually and with your family. So, are your kids going to carry on? Do you think the 4-H tradition in the Lindsey family?
Well, good morning, Ken. We are working on that. They're just old enough now, and we did buy some rabbits at the fair. We already raise. We should be doing 4-H all the time because we raise goats, chickens, ducks, geese, turkeys. Now they have rabbits. So it's just a matter of getting them
Officially in the process.
raising them and showing them and doing the stuff. But yeah, it's fun to see them get to do some of the same things I did as a kid.
Neat stuff. Well, later today, the Coldwater City Council, the Planning Commission, and the Coldwater Board of Public Utilities get together. They bring in some from Michigan State University Extension to talk about data centers and how you could regulate them on a local basis, what they all mean, and there's a lot of misinformation about there. What is a data center? What happens with the water supply? What happens with the electric supply for that? It's gotten taken to a new level in Marshall, where there's a proposal for one at the Brooks Park, their industrial park, where there have even been death threats against city council members over this. So it seems like a topic that is so heated right now for people. Is there any way the state, because I know Jennifer Wertz has talked about this, a statewide moratorium for a couple of years on this? In your mind, is there a way that the state can take the pressure off some of these local municipalities for this and what they might be facing and the misinformation about data centers?
Yeah, it's a good question. It is certainly a hot topic. I think I might have made a comment the last time you and I spoke about this dynamic that when we leave it entirely to this idea, like people like to throw on the tagline of local control, sounds great, but when we leave every decision that way, it leads to a lot of community division on these topics instead of having the state set some common sense guidelines for things. So, the thing about the moratorium that I have traditionally pushed back on is that, I could see value in this if the state goes down a path of saying these are the things that the pieces of information that we need to collect in order to, have a sensible approach to this, possibly. But the moratorium itself, as I've seen it pitched, is kind of people just kicking the can down the road, or it could become that. And I worry that's not the right answer. If something needs to happen at a state level, then we don't need to be pushing in the meantime to get a moratorium. We need to be talking about the law that needs to be passed. Some of them that I've put forward, ideas that I've put forward at the state level, is make sure it should be locked in for everybody. It doesn't matter what community you are. If there's a data center, we should force them to commit to long-term purchasing agreement for electricity so that we know that they're not going to come in and distort the market by competing with consumers and driving up prices, right? So they should have to commit to that. As a matter of fact, I believe they should have to commit to more electricity than they need, and when they do so, the excess that they have to purchase should be a direct benefit to the ratepayers in their area. And then the things that come up about environmental concerns, I think that they're valid concerns, but I think there are ways to handle them. To just make sure, hey, if you're concerned that they're going to be, overutilization of groundwater, et cetera, then we could make it illegal for them to do that, right? It's not that complicated, but I don't think it's productive to say, the state should just dodge all of those things and leave it up to local governments to have to, entirely address these issues themselves. It's not healthy.
Do you feel any will in Lansing for everybody else to go along with those kinds of ideas, or is it, or again, are people just kind of standing back in both the House and the Senate?
I think one of the problems is that there's been a missed opportunity this year. I actually believe on this issue there could have been a pretty broad bipartisan consensus in the first half of the year. Right now, we're not going to be in session this week. We do have days on the calendar next week to be in session. But so far, utilization through this election season has been very low of these session days. And that's a common thing. So if very little is done in Lansing all the way through the November election, these conversations are going to continue happening, and then we're going to be, into lame duck session. We'll see what that looks like. But I do worry about the timeline as well.
State Senator Jonathan Lindsey on the line with us. I guess real quick then, for you, as the clock ticks here toward the end of the year and the end of the session, and a turnover in Lansing with the governor's office, Secretary of State, all that stuff going on, and a lot of other lawmakers might or might not be in those chairs next year as well. Do you have any priorities for you to get done before the end of the calendar year?
Well, I'll be looking for opportunities because it'll be, as I said, probably not a very active legislature through November, and then, lame duck could be any number of things could happen. So I will focus on a few priorities that I have pushed, but I will also look at it as, as we work through the end of the session, what opportunities arise. There are, bipartisan pieces of work, especially this policy set around healthcare costs that I've worked on for years now. I'm so close to the finish line where we've gotten votes in both chambers on multiple bills that cover all the way from making sure that people know up front what medical costs are going to be, to also making sure that they have transparent information about what options for payment exist when they get there, so that you can't, end up in this billing nightmare cycle. And then even on the back end, some protections on medical debt. And we've had good luck with bipartisan support for both of them, but the politics have just gotten in the way of which chambers are willing to run which bills, and we'll fight over sponsorship and things like that. So that's one of the areas that I'll certainly be trying to continue to work through the end of this session. But there may be other ones, even what you just said. Maybe we'll get in the fall, or post-November, people will take a deep breath and say, look, we see this data center fight happening in all of our communities. We need to step in and protect our people, make sure that the state has a good set of guidelines here. There may be even an opportunity for that. I'll tell you, don't laugh, Ken, but one of the bills that I have started drafting, we've got drafting process going on it. It's not in yet, but I've got one that literally says that these hyperscale data centers would have to have physical self-destruct devices installed, because as much as I think that they can be utilized for all the computing necessities of people and all this, I absolutely believe that the people out there that are worried that this becomes an element of sort of a mass surveillance state, and then what happens when the robots take over, look, there should be fail-safes. People will look at this and they'll laugh, but I think, we should all be ready. We should be thinking proactively about this. So anyway, there'll be legislation out there, and we'll see what opportunities exist before the end of December.
Sounds like a Mission Impossible kind of thing. That this will self-destruct in 30 seconds or whatever. Mr. Phelps.
Yeah.
Oh, I promise not to laugh. Sorry.
No, you can. But I encourage people to think about it. What do we think happens? Is there a world where we can simultaneously make use of technology that goes forward, and then also understand this one is sort of unique? We are talking about housing AI that is growing exponentially, and at some point in time, we've seen these simulations. Turn AI loose in their own simulations, and they start fighting each other, and ask them, what would you do? Would you kill all of humanity? Yes, we would. This is some of the stuff is very different than things we've seen in the past. So anyway, thank you for indulging me. It's I think we've got to be thoughtful and kind of like break free of some old constraints of what kinds of policies need to be in place to protect people.
Good stuff, Jonathan. Thanks. If not sooner, we'll talk in a couple of weeks. All right.
Thank you, Ken.
State Senator Jonathan Lindsey with us this morning.